All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Christy Lee's DC Dispatch, and we have a lot to celebrate going into the 250th year of this great republic. My name is Scott Armstrong from Rebunk News and the Grand Theft World Podcast. I'm here filling in for one more day here on DC Dispatch for Christy Lee. Hope she's enjoying her time off. And yeah, I know I can speak for all of us here at Lindell TV when I say that we hope you have a very grand and celebratory 4th of July weekend. We have a lot to cover today, including Trump's plans for this weekend. That includes kicking off the 250th year celebration tomorrow. Basically, we're not waiting until next year. This is going to be an entire year of celebration for freedom, liberty, and this wonderful country called America. So it seems, let's see, and we also have Second Amendment news. We have some Make America Healthy Again news, and so much more. So as we've been covering, and I know what everybody's been talking about, especially today, is this new big, beautiful bill. So we're going to get into that in just a second. Let's check in. Let's see. Trump starts his day. He's got a full day today. And as we speak, I heard, let's see. It was at 10 o'clock Eastern this morning. He had a conversation with Russian President Vladimir Putin. So that is a very interesting development. We'll see how that goes. That's coming off of yesterday. We talked about the whole situation with Ukraine, how they are defunding. Well, let's see. I shouldn't say defunding, but they are holding back certain armaments from, from Ukraine, and we'll get to that here in just a minute. But it's a very interesting development there. So we'll see what happens. Also, I heard this morning that Mike Lindell is in DC, and I understand that he will be meeting with President Trump this afternoon. So I'm sure you will hear more about that later this afternoon on the Mike Lindell Show. So please make sure you stay tuned for that. And I was going to say, normally we check in with our DC correspondents, Allison Steinberg or Kara Castronova. There's so much going on right there. They let me know before the show. They're just putting together more information for later today. So they'll be on the show, on the network later today. So please stay tuned for them. I'm sure they're going to have lots and lots and lots for you. So, okay. So again, we are waiting for movement still, or some sort of resolution on the one big, beautiful bill. So you will get more coverage on that as the day goes. If anything breaks, if anything develops, you'll hear about it right here on Lindell TV. And so stay tuned for more as things develop. So right before going on air, I did pull up some information. And so according to a live update on CNN, they said that some of the holdouts are falling in line. So I heard last night they had a contingent of Republican House members who chose not to vote chose to vote no. So they've apparently fallen in line. So I'm very curious. It's always interesting how DC politics work. I wonder so much how, what happened, what concessions were made behind closed doors. Who knows? We'll never know. It's politics, man. That's just the name of the game. But anyway, so a group of House Republican holdouts fell in line behind President Donald Trump and agreed to allow his agenda to come to the floor, reversing course after days of threatening to block the sweeping bill from a final vote. So it's very interesting. So there's been a lot of debate, a lot of conversations. It's not just those holdouts who seem to have a problem with this bill, but Hakeem Jeffries apparently is going viral with his little take on it. So let's watch that real quick.
Speaker, that's not what this country should be all about. Manu wasn't the only one. The only American citizen who's been targeted by the deportation machine, a deportation machine that will be unleashed on steroids by this one big ugly bill. We know that, in fact, is the case. That's not hyperbole.
Sorry about that, guys. Sorry about that. I was about ready to take off on him. So, I mean, is he eating his breakfast there? I mean, what is he doing? Is he eating like a McDonald's breakfast sandwich there? You just see his greasy little face talking about, and it's like, okay, just in that one tiny little clip, there's so many things wrong. This is such a horrible mischaracterization that just needs to be put to bed. The mainstream media just seems to keep saying that Citizens are being deported. Dude, this is not going after citizens. Green card, like the bill does not target citizens. And that's why there's so much fear. This is why the mainstream media is sick, fraudulent, and they're responsible for the incitement of all of this horrific marches and protests, because they have convinced the public that citizens, U.S. citizens, are being deported. Okay? I'll tell you this, immigrants aren't being deported either. No immigrants are being deported. An immigrant is someone who comes here, follows the proper channels. They get either a green card or a work visa. Those people are not being, those are immigrants, okay? Those people have been allowed in through the legal channels. Those people are not being deported. I don't know how we can get this message out any more clear, because the mainstream media just says immigrants are being deported. They are not, okay? It's not. It is people who cross the border illegally and who are then leeching off the system. They're parasitically attaching themselves to America's welfare system, and they're sucking it dry, causing turmoil for the rest of the country. And that is not, we are trying to rectify that, okay? And he's like, whoa, this is going to be the biggest deportation machine you've ever seen. And we're like, yeah, I know. That's why we're voting for it. So the mischaracterization of them coming after citizens, immigrants, is so fraudulent and so dishonest. And that's really the only thing that the Democrats, these progressives, have to hold on to, is by way of deception. Their deception is the only thing that allows their agenda to go forward. Deception and censorship. That is it. That is the only reason why they've gotten anywhere with their agenda. If it wasn't if we had an even playing field, right? If we all had the ability to go on YouTube, I can't do it. I've been playing the YouTube censorship game for like 5 years. I just celebrated my 5-year podcasting anniversary recently, and I've been playing the censorship game forever. Okay, I'm grateful that I was given a channel on Band.video for my show Rebunk News, and that allowed me to break through the censorship paradigm back in like 2020, 2021, early on. And if it wasn't for things like that, I wouldn't have a voice. I wouldn't have a platform, because if it wasn't for their tactics to lie, deceive, and censor, then their agenda would have been dead and rotting long ago. So shame on him for mischaracterizing it and for continuing to spill this lie that actually does cause real world harm, because people then take that information and they go out in the streets, and as we've covered the last few days, they create apps to target ICE officials, law enforcement. This is a problem. They are propagating the problem that is leading to real world danger. And they call us, there's a term for that. They call it stochastic terrorism. Stochastic terrorism is where words then lead to real life terroristic actions, okay? And they blame us for it all the time. They say if I am opposed to taking a mandated experimental mRNA injection and I start spreading information about that, that is stochastic terrorism. I disagree with you wholeheartedly, and I would say that your mischaracterization of the discussion is infuriating people to the point where they are then getting activated and radicalized and being sent out to harm law enforcement. And that's what we're seeing. So shame on him so much for that. Horrible. Okay. Let's shift it a little bit. So in good news, okay, so Trump, busy day today. I guess he's meeting with Mike Lindell. He's got a few meetings this afternoon, but then he's getting on a plane. He's heading out to Des Moines, Iowa. So Trump is kicking off his Independence Day weekend with a very special patriotic event in Iowa. And so he is he announced on Tuesday that he'll kick off his Independence Day weekend by traveling to Iowa on Thursday, today, for a very special event honoring our great country. So Trump says, I am thrilled to announce that I will be traveling to one of my favorite places in the world, beautiful Iowa, on Thursday, July 3rd, to kick off the very beginning of our exciting celebration of America's 250th anniversary. So as we all know, the big 250th anniversary of our country will be next year, July 4th. It's going to be a banger. We're going to be having a great time. Okay. And so he's saying that he is kicking off the celebration this year. It's going to be a whole year celebration. So I'm really excited to see what that entails. So the event tomorrow on the 4th is slated to be held at the Iowa State Fairgrounds in Des Moines, Iowa, and it's scheduled to begin at 7:30 Central, according to the event's website. The 250th anniversary of America's independence will be held on July 4th, 2026, with Trump repeatedly touting his administration will plan a year of patriotic events celebrating the anniversary. So just fantastic. It's, it fires me up. But then there's a lot of talk, the empires generally last about 250 years, right? That's kind of the talking point. People say they kind of run out of steam, and we're at a very important inflection point here in our country. And I feel like we are moving in the right direction. If nothing else, people have been woken up to the nonsense, to the tyranny. People still have various ideas on what a solution might look like. But I think just, you here watching Lindell TV, you're informed, you get it. You're moving in the direction of freedom, and that's really all we care about. Okay. That's the only thing that matters is freedom. That's it. I don't care what side you're on. The only thing that matters is freedom and maintaining our freedom, even from a tyrannical government. I mean, you guys heard my take on that yesterday. Like, I'm not looking to the government to save me at all, but I'm looking if we need to have a government in the first place, then they are there to protect my civil liberties, my rights ordained by God, period. That's it. So to the extent to which they can do that, I'm cool with it. But at the same time, we all know government exists to take rights and give them to somebody else. That's basically what the nature of modern government is. And so I'm excited, though. It's a celebratory time. Let freedom reign all weekend and all throughout the year until the big celebration next year. So, all right. So next story we got, let's see, this just came in right before we went on air. This story was pointed out to me. So this is from the New York Times, says that the Justice Department weighs seeking criminal charges as it presses states for election data. So this is really interesting. So senior officials, let's see. Yep. Senior officials at the senior Justice Department officials, are exploring whether they can bring criminal charges against state or local election officials if the Trump administration determines they have not sufficiently safeguarded their computer systems, according to, the ambiguous people familiar with the discussion. Okay, so that's really interesting. The first time that we've seen movement towards, now this is nothing set in stone. This isn't like them taking action, but this is them opening the box and considering possibly maybe holding people criminally accountable for failure to safeguard an election. That's great. That's awesome. We all remember the trauma of the 2020 election. I mean, oh my God. I was sitting there. Of course, we all knew that Trump was going to win. I mean, it was like a no-brainer, right? I was sitting there with a couple of my friends in a room. We had Trump flags. We had "Don't Tread on Me" flags. We had all these flags. We'd ordered pizza. We were sitting there cleaning our guns, okay? Like we had a bunch of AR-15s out, and we were watching the InfoWars coverage on the big screen TV. So Alex, it was like the most American moment of my life. I was like, yeah, America. We were sitting there celebrating the Trump victory. And then as the evening went on, we were like, oh no. We all remember them covering up the windows with cardboard. We remember the water main leaks. We remember the vote Viagra that took Biden right over the top right at the end. Okay, we all remember the trauma of the 2020 election. And credit to Mike Lindell, who has just been a warrior in the field of trying to not only uncover what happened in the 2020 election, but advocating for some accountability for it. So he's done a lot of amazing work in that regard. And so hopefully this bears fruit. Hopefully his work, his hard dedication, and I know he's put so much of his own money and resources into it. And so it would be nice to have some sort of reconciliation around it and to be able to move forward with confidence, knowing that our elections are secure, honest. Why would anybody not want an honest election? Okay. It seems like, again, it's like what I just said about the whole censorship thing. If the playing field is even, everybody should be able to come to the table equally. Let the ideas play out. Let the ideas proliferate as they should. Okay. Now, the problem is that the Democrats, these guys know their ideas don't hold water. They know that their ideas don't hold up under scrutiny. If you go one layer beneath the surface of the rhetoric, then the whole thing falls apart. It doesn't match reality. It completely is in contrary to reality, almost every single one of their positions. And it is unfeasible. And you can see it in reality in every single Democrat city across the entire country. Every single big city, which is by default a Democrat city, probably because of election interference, stealing, rigging, corruption of all the various different ways. So if we had an even playing field, that whole map of the United States would all be red. I guarantee it, because people do want freedom. People do want prosperity. That's all we're trying to advocate for. And we have to go through all of these channels, and we have to do these reconciliation bills, because we can't get any of this stuff passed under a supermajority. We have to shoehorn it into a 900-page bill just to try and get movement towards freedom. That's really it. And these Democrats, that's just all they want to do, is they want to interfere. And it doesn't matter what we say. It doesn't matter what our position is. They will always oppose it 100% of the time. And so we just keep moving forward. And so that's hopeful. Just back to the article, it says, just real quick, it says, in recent days, senior officials have directed Justice Department lawyers to examine the ways in which a hypothetical failure by state or local officials to follow security standards for electronic voting could be charged as a crime, appearing to assume a kind of criminally negligent mismanagement of election systems. So criminal negligence, who knows what that's going to look like, but it's very interesting. And so, yeah, hope that we get some more movement on that. Okay, so I alluded to this earlier, and this is so this is before we heard about the Putin phone call. So I'm excited to hear what happened with that. But the story, according to USA Today, says that the Pentagon cuts off some weapons for Ukraine as concern grows over U.S. munitions running low. Okay, so we got some stuff here for you. So I looked at several other takes and several other perspectives, and to me, it just really sounded like we're just halting. We're halting, sending them arms. We're just kind of just like, hey, we're kind of backing out of this whole conflict as a country because we want to focus on our own military integrity. And of course, USA Today spins that by saying, just undermining the U.S. military by saying, oh, well, it's because the U.S. military doesn't have anything to send them. Their munitions are running low. It's like, no, we are the United States, okay? We don't run low. I'm sorry to tell you that, okay? And so maybe we're just sick and tired of being the bag man for this illegal dictator in Ukraine who suspended elections. He is backed by, have you guys heard of the Azov Battalion? Type in Azov Battalion. Check them out. It's a neo-Nazi paramilitary group that supports Zelensky in Ukraine, okay? So this is the guy that we're like, you know what? Actually, we're going to pause. We're just going to pause a little bit on the weapons, and you can just do your own thing. Okay, there was a lot more to that, but let's check it out. So this is a press conference from the Pentagon. Let's see what they have to say.
The U.S. is stopping some military aid to Ukraine. It's unclear how long this pause will last. The Pentagon just held a briefing saying it's part of a larger review in the Department of Defense.
The Department of Defense continues to provide the president with robust options regarding military aid to Ukraine, consistent with his goal of bringing this tragic war to an end. And at the same time, the department is rigorously examining and adapting its approach towards achieving this objective while also preserving U.S. military readiness and defense priorities that support the president's America First agenda.
Yeah, so we're just supporting the president's priorities and the American First agenda. We're not running low, okay? USA Today, so get out of here. That's their spin. Such a sneaky little spin to just plant a little seed in the back of the minds of the people that the U.S. is weak. The U.S. is, I don't even want to say it because we're not. This is the 4th of July, baby. 4th of July weekend, okay? Don't mess with the U.S. Okay, so now Ukraine Foreign Ministry comes out with a comment that says that any delay or slowing down in supporting Ukraine's defense capabilities would only encourage the aggressor, Russia, to continue war and terror rather than seek peace. So according to reports, the delay includes dozens of Patriot missiles, more than 100 Hellfire missiles, and more than 250 missiles for precision-guided missile systems. And of course, yeah, this is for America first. All right? This is not because the military's weak. It's just good policy. And it aligns with the American First agenda. But the media just can't help themselves to disparage and try and project weakness on behalf of the U.S. military. So again, when are these freaks of the media going to fade off into irrelevance? Okay. It's frustrating. Okay. Thank God we have people like the good folks here at Lindell TV to challenge the never ending stream of nonsense. This right here, this network is a check and a balance to the nonsense that comes out spewing out of the mainstream media. Okay. It's so disgusting. Okay. So now we got some Second Amendment news. Again, this is good news. I'm not used to having just good news all the time. I'm really not. I grew up in Oregon. I'm from Oregon. I was in Oregon during the lockdowns, and I then moved. Then I couldn't take it anymore, and I moved to Tennessee, which is great. And I had that same experience when I was living in Oregon. It was like just every day, just demoralizing news about what they were trying to do. And I come to Tennessee, and I'd read the news about what they're doing here, and I'm just like, yeah, awesome. It was like all the time. It was such a weird thing to experience of actually being like pumped about the stuff that they're doing in the state that you live in. It's crazy. So anyway, so this is another piece of good news. I'm just not used to it. So it appears that the Department of Justice, this is kind of complicated, so follow with me here. The Department of Justice has allowed the deadline for an appeal to slip by on a case, which effectively upholds the decision of a lower court that basically said that the prohibition of handgun sales for people between the ages of 18 and up to 21 violates the Second Amendment. So effectively, this lower court ruling said that it is against the Second Amendment to make it illegal for an 18, 19, or 20-year-old to buy a handgun. Now, that got appealed, went to the Department of Justice, and they just simply didn't file the appeal in time, which by default holds up that lower court ruling. Now, there will be more movement on this, but it's very interesting. So they just pulled up on the screen. It was according to the news outlet The Reload last Friday. So this is last Friday. The Department of Justice quietly allowed a deadline to file an appeal with the Supreme Court in the case of Reese versus ATF. So look up Reese versus ATF. They allowed that deadline to pass, which as a result, a unanimous January decision of the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, which covers Texas, Mississippi, and Louisiana, will stand. And so the panel held that a combination of federal statutes, licensed firearm dealers, and selling pistols to young adults violates the Second Amendment. So basically what that means is that in that jurisdiction, in the Fifth Circuit Court, it seems that there is movement towards allowing 18, 19, 20-year-olds, responsible gun owners, to own and purchase a handgun. So, hey, Second Amendment all day long, baby. So I see that as a win for victory. So, all right, now what we're going to do here, you guys, we're going to shift it real quick. We're going to play you a video. So I know common contributor and guest host here on DC Dispatch, I believe he filled in on Monday, John Bowne, good friend of mine, actually. He filed an explosive report yesterday covering Fauci and some of the stuff going on in the Make America Healthy Again movement. I guess Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was just on Tucker Carlson, dropped some explosive information, and John Bowne did a great job of encapsulating that information. So what we're going to do is we're going to play that video right now. We're going to come back, discuss, and yeah, let's go ahead and roll it.
In a fiery interview on the Tucker Carlson Show on June 30th, 2025, U.S. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. dropped bombshell accusations that have been an inevitable conclusion if humanity is to survive the pharma mad science cash machine.
What you would do if you wanted to find the answer, which is to compare outcomes in a fully vaccinated group to health outcomes in an unvaccinated group. And the CDC did that study in 1999. They brought in a team of scientists under a Belgian researcher named Thomas Verstraeten, and they looked at the data. They looked at children who had received the hepatitis vaccine within the first 30 days of life, and compare those children to children who had received the vaccine later or not at all. And they found an 135% elevated risk of autism among the vaccinated children. And it shocked them. They kept the study secret, and they manipulated it through 5 different iterations to try to bury the link. And, we know how they did it. They got rid of all the older children, essentially, and just had younger children who were too young to be diagnosed. and they stratified the data, and they did a lot of other tricks.
Adding fuel to the fire, recent reports reveal that Pfizer has pushed back a critical study on heart damage in children vaccinated with its COVID-19 mRNA vaccines until 2030, despite the CDC admitting the condition as a side effect. A study that should have been completed in 2023.
They circulate on purpose misinformation so that they will mislead.
Who are the people that repressed true information on purpose? And whilst myocarditis and pericarditis current findings at least convey might affect a small percentage of the population, it's likely they had access to that data long before it was shared.
But Pharma and Fauci are not sleeping as the flames rise higher. A leaked Bio-Vaccine Policy Steering Committee VPSC meeting document from April 3rd, 2025 exposes a calculated strategy by the Biotechnology Innovation Organization, BIO, representing giants like Pfizer and Merck to counter RFK Jr.'s influence amid an FDA regulatory shift. The memo highlights concerns over RFK Jr.'s impact, proposing to divide the MAHA movement from MAGA by enlisting conservative figures like Dr. Oz and Senator Cassidy, funding influencers to discredit him, and lobbying Congress with half of BIO's cash reserves to oust him from a potential Health and Human Services Secretary role. It also suggests reframing vaccines as national security assets to rebuild public trust, reflecting a profit-driven agenda amidst rising flames of controversy.
What we're alleging is that gain-of-function research was going on in that lab, and NIH funded it. That is not... get away from it. It meets your definition, and you are obfuscating the truth. I'm not obfuscating the truth. You are the one. I'm not obfuscating the truth. You are the one. I'm not obfuscating the truth. You are the one.
Transparency from the pharmaceutical industry has become a sick and deadly joke. Kennedy's explosive interview, paired with Pfizer's jaw-dropping decision to kick the can down the road on its myocarditis study on children until 2030, is a rallying cry for Americans to demand justice before these psychopaths wipe us all out.
All right. Great work, John. Great reporting there. Can't say enough about that. You know, you guys, if anybody is familiar with my work, this has been my number one beat for the last 5 years. It's not only the COVID mRNA injection, but just the childhood vaccine schedule in general. It's something I'm very passionate about. So hearing these alarming things, it's just bringing it to light. It's bringing it all to the surface, and it's letting people know that we're watching you. Pfizer, we're watching you. Okay. And I'm really hoping for some accountability. Really hoping for some accountability here as we move forward with the MAHA movement under President Trump, and the whole pharmaceutical poison paradigm system falls away. So you guys, thank you so much for allowing me to host this week. It's been such an honor. So if you guys want to follow me, I'm at rebunked.news. You can find links to all my stuff. And if you want, I actually made a song with John Bound. If you go to rebunkedrecords.com, that's my album I put out last year. And that first song, We Don't Need You No More, is with John Bound and Rob Dew from InfoWards as well on the bass. So thank you guys so much for tuning in today. And I hope you have a very safe and fun and celebratory 4th of July weekend. And until next time, my name is Scott Armstrong, and filling in for Christy Lee on DC Dispatch.